Good morning. So today we are discussing about problems on axis symmetry body. So if you see the problem statement, an axis symmetry body with a linearly distributed load on the conical surface is shown in figure. Determine equivalent point loads at node 2, 4 as well as 6. So now the structure or the engineering problem is not given. Only small section is given because it is an axis symmetry problem. No need to consider the structure for analysis purpose because it is an axis symmetry. That is that you are taking the advantages of axis symmetry. In general, in finite element method, so there is no specific element, axisymmetric element to taking care of the linearly varying load. So in this problem, the load is linearly varying from node 6 to node 2. So you are going for the descending order, node 6 to node 4, even for future also, when it's solving and when you put in a notation, you are going for node 6 to node 2. Now this is the outermost surface element. It is not inside element of the axisymmetric problem because it is a surface load. It is acting on the surface of the structure, like conical structure, like a cooling tower in power plants. It's a conical, normally it is a conical structure. So outer surface, there is a surface load is acting. And here surface load is acting uniformly varying load. The load is varies from 0.4 megapascal to 0.2 megapascal. As in finite element method, there is no specific element to take care of this varying load. Then you have to find out equivalent, the uniformly distributed load. You have to find out. Now, as per this surface load is considered, it is shared in two triangular elements. So the one is upper triangular element and one more is the bottom triangular element. Imagine this is the bottom triangular element. This is the one more top triangular element. In the top or bottom triangular element, there are three sides or edges for the triangular element. All three sides surface load is not acting. The surface load is acting on only one side. If you consider the bottom triangle, the surface load is acting on edge 6, 4. And if you consider one more triangle, upper triangle, the surface load is acting only on surface load is acting only on the edge 6, 4 of one triangle, and one more triangle it is acting on edge 4, 2. So don't think that the 4 to 6, 4 is one element and 4, 2 is another element. Those are the one of the edges of the element. 6 4 is not like a bar. 6 4 is one element and 4 2 is one more element, or 6 4 is one element of the beam and 4 2 is one more element of the beam. It is not like that. It is a one edge of the triangular element, one of the edges of the triangular element. We have the triangular element, only outer surface of the triangular element, the uniformly varying load is acting. Now you have to find out, we know what is the intensity of load. What is the intensity of load acting at node 6? It is 0.4 megapascal. So what is the intensity of the load acting at node 4? That is not known. You have to find out. So what is the intensity of the load acting at node 2? At node 2. So now you have to find out what is the load acting at. So we have to find out what is the load or intensity of the load acting at the nodal point 4. And they have given the coordinate points of node 6, node 4 and node 2 also. The coordinate point of node 6 are 60 40 and point 4 or node 4 is 40 55 and node 2 is 20 70. Now you can see this, we have uniformly distributed load. So before that you have to find out what is the load acting at node 4. Imagine this is node 6, load acting is 0.4 megapascal. Node 2, the load acting is 0.25 megapascal. So what is the load acting at node 4? So it is the average force. We can see in the next slide. Intensity of pressure at node 6 is even given, that is 0.35 megapascal. Intensity of pressure, or it is also referred as load, at node 2 is 0.2 megapascal. Now, what is the load acting at nodal point 4? The load acting at nodal point 4 is given by, so P2 plus P6 divided by 2, that is the average force. At one point, the load is acting is 4 megapascal. Another point, load is acting at 0.2 megapascal. At midpoint or at node 4, so what is the load acting? The load acting is divided by 2, average of the load 2. So that will comes to 0.3 megapascal. Same thing is shown here. At node 4, average load acting is 0.3 megapascal. So at node 4, it is 0.3 megapascal. If you consider the edge 6 4, at 6, the load acting is 0.4. At 4, the load acting is 0.3. So what is the average UDL acting on the edge 6 4? You have to find out. To find out average UDL acting on node 6 4, so that is a simple formula. The 0.4 megapascal P6 plus P4, P4 is 0.3 megapascal divided by 2. That is 0.4 plus 0.3 divided by 2. So it will become 0.35 megapascal. Or you can say that at edge 6 4, the equivalent UDL is acting on the edge 6 4 is 0.35 megapascal. In the similar way, you have to find out, so what is the UDL acting on edge 4.2? On edge 4.2, the UDL acting is, the edge at node 4, the UDL magnitude is 0.3 megapascal. At 2, the UDL magnitude is 0.2. The 0.3 plus 0.2 divided by 2. That 0.3 plus 0.2 is 0.5. Divided by 2 is 0.25. That means average UDL acting at node, the edge 4.2 is 0.25 megapascal. That those calculations are shown here. So you can see here. The average uniformly distributed load acting on edge 4 is equal to the average of the load for node 6 and node 4, that is nothing but P6 plus P4 divided by 2. So finally we are getting 0.35 megapascal. So now we are concentrating on the edge 6 4. So edge 6 4, the coordinates are given. Then you have to find out the length of the element, length of the edge 6 4. So once you know the coordinate point, we can find out the edge length or length of the line 6 4 from your analytical geometry formula. So we general formula is we have x2 minus x1 the whole square plus y2 minus y1 the whole square. But here coordinates are x, not x and y. In the case of axisymmetric problem, the coordinates are r and z. It is a cylindrical coordinate system. One is r. The r referred to because we have the axis of symmetry. It is most of the time it is a you can imagine the cylindrical object or conical object. The z-axis is nothing but imagine it is a axis of the cylinder or axis of the cone or frustum of the cone. The radius, the outer wall, what you are seeing is only the outer wall. There are two radius. One is r radius and one more is height of that particular point. That means there are two coordinate. One is r coordinate and one more is z coordinate. The first coordinate is normally r coordinate and second coordinate is z coordinate. But if you slightly change the formula used for in your mathematics, x2 minus x1 the whole square plus y2 minus y1 the whole square, when you come to axisymmetry problem, so this will like this: r4 minus r6 the whole square. Whether you take r6 minus r4, because of the square you get same value, and similarly z4 minus z6 the whole square. That is nothing but xj minus xi the whole square, the yj minus yi the whole square. So finally we are getting the edge length. The edge length is now 25. The length of edge 64 is 25 mm. We have already derived the formula for traction force. For the traction force, you have to find out TR at different point. For that, we require there are two values. One is C value and one more is the S value. The C value is given by the difference in height, that is Z4 minus Z6, that depending upon this one. 6,4, L64, you are talking, consider the 6,4, the X, that is nothing but Zj minus Zi divided by Lij. So that means Z4 value is given 55. Z4 is 55 and Z6 is 40. The divided by length of the element is known. The length of the element is 0.4. Similarly, we have C. The C is equal to, the C is nothing but difference in height, that already we have found out, that is 0.6. Similarly, there is a one more term that is required for finding out TZ. So that is nothing but the S. Just S is only for our simplification. You are used referred this as this ratio referred as S. The S is given by R6 minus R4 divided by L64. So R6 is, that is nothing but Ri minus Rj divided by Lij. That you can remember. Ri minus Rj divided by Lij. But when you come to C, it is Zj minus Zi divided by L. That difference you have to remember. So R6 is known. R6 is the radius at 0.6 is 60 and radius at 0.4 is 40. Divided by length of the element is already we have calculated, that is 25 mm. Finally we get 0.8. Now traction force acting along the Z direction, the R direction, in the radial direction, because we have traction force, there are two components. The one traction force component is acting along radial direction and one more traction force component is acting along the longitudinal direction or Z direction. Similarly, it is almost similar to resolving the forces, because the forces are acting at certain angle. You can see, imagine this is a result, let it be Fr as per your mechanics of material is considered, or first year civil engineering mechanics considered. We have Fr. So Fr is force acting, inclined to x as well as y plane. But we can resolve the forces into two components. Fr is resultant force. That force can be resolved into two components, the one along x direction and one along y direction. So that means we have resultant force. When you come to axisymmetry problem, we have TR. The TR is acting along the radial direction. We have the force is acting inclined direction. That force we were resolving along R direction, and one more one more force acting in the Z direction. Hence, we have TR and TZ. We know that TR, we have the formula. The TR is minus PC. So P is known for P64 is known, that is a uniformly distributed load. Initially it is a linear load, linearly varying load. Now it is found out equivalent uniformly distributed load. The P value is known. The C already we have. By substituting, we'll get TR. We'll get around minus 0.21. Similarly, TZ, the TR is acting along the radial direction. It is almost similar to your X direction in cylindrical, this in the regular coordinate system, X coordinate, Y coordinate system, and TZ correspond to the Z direction or longitudinal direction of the axis symmetry element. Again, we have formula for TZ. The TZ is given by minus PS. So P is known, S is also known. That for a particular 864, if you multiply and simplify it, we'll get the 0.24 we'll get. Then to get the other values, we require one more parameter A. So A is given by 2 Ri plus, if you write general formula, 2 Ri plus Rj divided by 6. A is 2 Ri plus Rj divided by 6, and B is equal to Ri plus 2 Rj divided by 6. But here Ri, because nodes, the ith node is 6th, that's why we have 2 R6, and jth node is 4. So that means plus R4 divided by 6. So finally we get value of A. So A is 26.66. Similarly, we can find out the value of B. The value of B is given by Ri plus 2 Rj divided by 6. As per our convention is considered ith node is 6. That's why we have R6 plus 2 R4 divided by 6. Finally, we're getting 23.33. So now we have traction force vector. We have formula that also we have derived in the previous class. The traction force vector is given by general formula 2 pi LE. General formula is LE, but now you are finding out the traction force for the edge 1. The nodes of the edge 1 is 6 and 4. Hence, I referred it as 6, 4 into A into TR plus comma A TZ B into TR into B into TZ. It is the formula for the traction force. It is a transpose. Now A value is known, TR value is known, TZ value is known, B value is known. Substitute it, and finally you are getting the traction force vector for the edge. The edge, the 6, 4. It is a transpose vector. That means we have TR6. The TR6 is value is minus 879. This minus 8. So minus 879 is a TR. The TR4 is acting, TR6 is acting, TR6 nothing but the traction force acting at node 6 along radial direction, and TZ6 refer to traction force acting on element the element 1 or edge 1 along Z direction. But if you see the diagram, if you see this diagram, there is a node 4. The node 4 is the common node for edge 1 as well as edge 2. So now the net load acting at node 4 is the contribution from the lower edge plus contribution from the upper edge. The edge for node 4 is shared by edge 2 as well as edge 1. That's why I am telling this. We have TR4 of 1 and TZ4 of 2. Why you are putting superscript 1 is we have traction force acting at node 4. TR4 is nothing but traction force acting at node 4. So which is the contribution from the edge 1? The edge 1 is subject to uniformly distributed load. When it is uniformly distributed load, so we have converting the uniformly distributed load into point load. The point load is along the R direction, and R direction it is TR4. This particular point load is acting at node 4. Hence it is referred as TR4. And this TR4 contribution is because of UDL acting on edge 1. Hence I am putting superscript as 1. In the similar way, TZ4 is nothing but traction force acting at node 4. It is the contribution from the element or edge 1. It is almost similar. We have 3%. May say that will be A, B, C, and C is getting the money of 100 rupees from A, and same C is getting 100 rupees from B. The total amount or contributed collected amount from C is 100 plus 100. That means for the edge 1, there is a contribution of traction force for the node 4 as well as the traction force along the Z direction. In the similar way, for the edge 2 at node 4, there is an additional traction force from the edge 2 that you are going to do it later. Now that is edge 2 is nothing but 4-2. So whatever the forces we are shown at node 4, it is contribution from edge 1. Now we are considering the edge 2 separately. Edge 2 separately. Edge 2 is nothing but the ith node is 4, jth node is 2. The ith node value is the coordinate values 40. The 40 is nothing but R4 and 50 is nothing but RZ. The Z coordinate at node 4 is 50. In the similar way, 20 is nothing but the R coordinate or R2 is equal to 20 mm and Z2 is 70 mm. Now we know the values of varying load at node 4 and node 2. At node 4 value is 0.3 megapascal. At node 2 the value is 0.2 megapascal. So now to find out traction force, so we require what is the UDL, equivalent UDL acting on element or edge 2. The equivalent UDL acting on element 2 is average force which is acting at node 4 as well as node 2. The average force acting at node 4 is 0.3 megapascal. The force acting at node 2 is 0.2 megapascal. Average force acting on edge 4-2 is, this is 0.2, and this is 0.3, and this is 0.2. The 0.2 plus 0.3, that is 0.3 plus 0.2 divided by 2, finally 0.25. That means average force acting on edge 4-2 is 0.25 m. This is shown in the beginning. Here you can see for the edge 4-2, the average force acting on edge 4-2 is 0.25. How you are getting 0.25 is, at node 4 the force is 0.3 megapascal. At node 2 the force is 0.22 megapascal. Average force is 0.2 plus 0.3 divided by 2, that will become 0.25. That is a UDL. Now in the first stage we have varying load, that is converted into UDL. But in finite element package, so whatever is the traction force or body force, whatever it may be, all loads should be acting on the nodal point. Then you have to find out equivalent the traction force component at node 4 as well as node 2. In the first phase, we have varying load on edge 2 or edge 4-2, that we have converted into UDL. The UDL magnitude is given by 0.25 megapascal. So now in the similar way you have to find out Z. C is always the Z2 minus Z4 divided by L42. That is nothing but Zj minus Zi divided by Lij. And that we can find out. C is, we have 70 minus 55. 70 minus 55 divided by 25. Length of the edge is again 25 mm, 0.6. And S is nothing but Ri minus Rj, and that is R4 minus R2 divided by L42. That is nothing but Ri minus Rj divided by 25. Finally we get 0.8. So from that we can find out PR Here TR refer to the TR, the average TR acting along R direction. That is TR is given by minus PC. So P value is average UDL acting on the edge 42 is given by 0.25. In the similar way, average force that is C is also given. It is 0.6. The finally we are getting minus 0.15. Similarly, TZ is minus P into S. So minus P is given, that is common, that is 0.25 into S is 0.8. Finally, we get this. Then A is given, A is equal to 2R4, that is nothing but 2RI plus RJ divided by 2. So RI is nothing but 40 and RJ is 20. Finally, we are getting A value 16.67. Similarly, we can find out B value. The B value generic formula is RJ plus the RI plus ಏನಪ್ಪ ಬಸವರಾಜ್ B is given by R4 plus R2 divided by 6, that is 40 plus 2 into 20 divided by 6. So you get 13.33. So from that we have general formula for finding out the traction force vector. So that is 2 pi LE into A into TR, A into TZ, B into TR, B into TZ of transpose. So now, so for edge 4, whatever the value you have calculated, those values you have to substitute, and finally you get the traction force for the edge 2 or edge 4 2. So this is the traction force, and traction force again for edge 2, that's this is a node 4. This is a node 4 and this is a node 6. And node 4 is shared by element 1 as well as element 2. So hence the TR4, that is subscript 4 refer to nodal point. So this is the traction force acting at node 4. It is contribution from the edge 2 or element 2. The TZ is nothing but the traction force acting along Z direction. It is acting at node 4. It is contribution from element 2. In the similar way, we have the contribution of load at node 4. It may be TR4 or TZ4 because of the element 1 that already we have found out. So this value. So we have TR4. It is a contribution from element 1. TZ4, it is again contribution from element 4, element edge 1 or element 1. So finally, if you consider node 4, so we'll get two component, the TR2 from element 1, TR2 from the element 2, and TZ at node 2, Z force 1 is contribution from element 2 and one more is contribution from element 2. So that means we have TR2, the node 2 is not shared by any other element, it is restricted to only element 1, and node 6 also it is not shared by any other element, and only node 4 is shared by the element 1 as well as element 2. That's why you have to consider traction force contribution from element 1, TR4 1, and TR4 2 is nothing but traction force contribution from the element 2. Similarly, traction force acting along Z direction at node 4 is contribution from element 1 as well as element 2. This is the final, the traction force vector. So there is one more problem. Here, the traction force is acting. So here traction force is initially you have UDL. The UDL is acting in the inclined direction. That UDL is resolved into two components. One acting along Z direction, one more is acting along the radial direction. We have reserved the forces along radial direction as well as the Z direction. But there are one or two problems where the loading is not inclined. Either it may be only horizontal or only in the vertical direction or only in the Z direction or only in the radial direction. In such cases, the problems become simple. Just if you see this problem, and if you see the problem statement, for the figure shown in figure, calculate the nodal forces correspond to a uniformly radial pressure. So here we have axis symmetry element, so which is subject to only radial pressure. The pressure is acting only in the radial direction, that is given by 10 Newton per centimeter square, acting on the axis symmetric element, because it may be triangular element, plain triangular element, but they specifically mentioned it is an axis symmetric triangular element. That means there is only RZ is acting. So now this 1, 3, edge 1, 3 is surface edge, it is in the outermost space, but edge 1, 2 and 3, 2, those are the inside edges, there is no traction force is acting. So only on the surface traction force is acting. Or if you consider the road and the tire surface, the only on the outer surface there is an interaction, not inside surface. That means there is no radial force acting at node 2. There is no radial force, traction force in the radial direction at node 2. There is no traction force along the radial direction, along z direction at node 2. When you come to node 1, there is no traction force along z direction, because traction force is acting only along the radial direction. In the similar way, at node 3, the traction force is acting only along radial direction. There is no force along vertical direction. The PR is 10 Newton per centimeter square. The dimension is given in terms of centimeter. So now we have, they already have listed that all are traction force. Some books they are referred as F for F. Don't better to refer TR, because that is referred to traction force. The traction force already we have described. The traction force at TR is TR2 is 0, TZ2 is 0, TZ1 is 0, TZ3 is 0. Same thing is shown here. Now we have F TR1 is equal to 2 pi R L13 into 2, that's the formula, into PR. So that is the TR value. In the similar way, when you come to TR1, the TR1 we can find out, that is you get 30 pi newtons. And similarly TR3, that is traction force acting at node 3, you get around 30 newtons. 30 newtons. It's very simple. So you have to find out what is the traction force acting at node 1, and similarly you have to find out what is the traction force acting at node 3. That means you have to find out what is the traction force acting at node 1. You have to find out what is the traction force acting at node 3. It is very simple problem. Then there is one more problem here. We have again, so it comes under dynamic loading. It is axisymmetric element. So there are two forces. One is body force, one more is traction force. The unit of the traction force is Newton per centimeter square or millimeter square or meter square. The unit of body force is Newton per meter square, because body force is acting throughout the volume, like centrifugal force or centripetal force or force due to gravity, etc. So now they are given two forces. One is the centrifugal, because they are given some parameter that indicate that body is rotating. We can see the problem statement. For the element of an axisymmetric body rotating with a constant angular velocity, the constant angular velocity is given by omega. So omega is equal to 1000 revolution per minute. It is this revolving body, rotating body. Because of the rotating body, there is a centrifugal force. So centrifugal force comes under the body force. Hence, you have to consider the body force component. To find out body force component, we have to find out density. So once you know the density, we can find out the body force value by using the formula. As shown in figure, body force include weight of the material when specific density is given by 7850 kg per meter cube. The specific density is given. So from that we can get the density. Density is given by weight density. General density is weight density or specific density divided by G. That is 78 is given for 7850 divided by 9.81. Finally, the density is 800.2 kg per meter cube. Now we require area of the triangle. Finally, we require volume. The area of the triangle is given by half into base into height. The half into base is, we can find out from this point to this point. That is R2 minus R1. That is 75 minus 50 mm. That is 25 mm. The base is 25 mm. The height is the 75 minus 50. That is again 25. So finally, the area of that axisymmetric triangular element is 312.5 mm square. Now we have to find out the centrifugal force. The formula for centrifugal force is given by rho into R bar into omega square. I think R bar we have to find out. So centrifugal force is R bar is 60. So that means 50 plus 50 plus 50 plus 50 50 plus 50. The rate is, this is 75. This is interchange. 50 plus 75 plus this value. So finally we get that x value. The x value is, radial direction is 50 plus 50, that's 100. 100 plus 75, 175. The 175 divided by 2 is 3 is your average radius. The average radius we can find out. So from average radius we get around 60. Then the density is given, and the 60 is the pi r, that is average radius is 60. And omega we can find out, omega is 2 pi n, 2 pi omega. This omega is, the revolution is given, that is the omega is 1000 revolution per minute, but finally we require revolution per second. So for that they have found out omega, that is 2 pi revolution per second, that is 2 pi n. The 2 pi n divided by 60 is nothing but omega. Strictly speaking, it is n. Revolution RPM, revolution per minute. Omega is angular velocity. It is strictly speaking n. The n is 1000 RPM. This RPM you have to convert into omega, that revolution. So this is the formula. This is the omega. Strictly speaking, this value is omega. 2 pi n divided by 60 is omega. So after substituting, we get body force. The gravitation per unit volume is rho into g. This is the gravitation force. It is nothing but the Fz. This is the Fz. Finally, we have Fr. The Fr correspond to the centrifugal force component. Fz correspond to body force component. Both are, centrifugal force is also body force component, and gravitation force is also body force component. And finally, we have divided this. Finally, we have the body force vector that already we have derived. So we know what is Fr1 and Fr2, Fz1 and Fz2. Those are common. So once you substitute, Fr1 is equal to Fr2, Fz1 is equal to Fz2. Once you substitute, so we will get the body force vector. This is a body force vector. So that will finish the problems on the axisymmetry.